Oh man, do I love food. The LA Times even took notice after I ate at Hugo's nearly every day for 32 years. It was just blocks from my home in West Hollywood. And now I've moved to the motion picture and television fund here in Woodland Hills. And my obsession for good meals continue to simmer. Join me as I explore our food options here on the Wasserman campus.
Hey there.
Everybody.
Bill, it is so lovely to meet you. I've sat where you are seated right now. Of course, everybody else on campus does not know where you are seated. Where are you, Bill?
I'm at Hugo's West Hollywood in our beautiful tea room on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Yes, ever so lovely. And as I understand it, second home to Phil Gittelman.
Indeed. We so miss Mr. G on the street. He is the man, the myth, the legend. We actually have a cocktail named after Mr. G in homage to his time at our bar.
I did not know that,
Oh, you didn't know
Mr.
that? Yes.
G. Oh,
It's the Mr. G.
trust, when I can come back, I will be ordering up the Mr. G.
Very good.
Are you bottling cocktails?
We have actually just started. That was part of the response to the virus situation, is that restaurants got authorizations to start putting drink kits together, and that seems to be something that the county is going to let go on. We've had drink kits happening at the restaurant for about 6 weeks now, but we put a refrigerator up front as part of our renovation, and now we're going to be bottling said cocktails with beautiful labeling and branding and such. So when you get your Postmates meal, you can also pick up some cocktails from us.
So, Phil, before I hand it over to you, very selfishly, are you doing this out of the Studio City location as well? Like, can I order the Mr. G?
Sadly, Mr. G involves some serious liquors, and we only have a wine license out there.
Okay.
So you would have to come to our West Hollywood store, but we'll give you ample reason to do so.
Twist my arm. All right. Have fun, guys.
Hey, Mr. G.
Hey, Bill, how are you? And
I'm hanging in
welcome
there.
to the original Foodie.
Yeah, thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
I want to tell our audience that Bill will refer to me as Mr. G. Let me just give you some quick background. In the early 1980s, when I started to visit Hugo's, they had a wonderful young lady who didn't speak a lot of English. She was from Pakistan, and she just couldn't say Gittelman. And she came to me one day and she said, "Would you mind if I called you Mr. G?" And I said, "Fine." And hence the moniker, and that's how it all started. I just wanted to welcome you to the show.
Thank you.
We know each other 40 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, you were just a kid with a full head of hair.
I was indeed, and I didn't quite look so tired.
Bring me up to date.
Sure.
With what's happened to Hugo's. We know we have Hugo's West Hollywood, and we have Hugo's Studio City.
Yes, and we also have Hugo's Tacos in Studio City, and we have Hugo's Tacos in Atwater. Two brands with two different. Well, we have the same point of view with respect to food, but it's a different moment. At the restaurants, we're still devoted to the dine-in experience generally, though more and more of our dine-in experiences are in-home through couriers like Postmates or DoorDash. And then the taco stands are a quicker experience. It's for people that are looking for the faster meal. The menu's smaller. Because as you'll remember at Hugo's, we don't like things simple. We've got to make absolutely everything from scratch, and we've got to have about 60 or 70 options. And that's still true of us today.
You're so lucky to have Nabor there.
Thank God for Nabor. He's really created a lot of amazing solutions to things.
Amazing.
And there's some, we actually had planned, as we often do, we change our menu seasonally twice a year. So we had all these plans in place just before this whole situation came down on us. So after, I think, a few weeks of experiencing the shock and awe that everyone in Los Angeles County did. It kind of occurred to us, hey, we're just kind of sitting on our hands. Why don't we get some updates going? So over the course of May, and then it bled a little bit into June, we took a big food revolution. Our menu took a big change. We're now featuring a lot more organics. In fact, our fruit cup and all the fruit in the building is organic, period. That's what you will get along the side of your fine desayuno forte for breakfast. We have a new vegan chicken patty that you can eat like a burger, but it's actually made out of cauliflower, though it tastes like crispy chicken. There's a lot of really delicious new things that we were able to do during this whole experience.
Well, someone had an ingenious idea. Was that opening the pantry your idea?
That actually was my idea. I will take a little bit of credit for that.
Tell us about that.
I think it was within the first couple of weeks, everybody was trying to figure out what was going on, the question of how things were going to work. We were one of the few places in West Hollywood, anyway, that remained open. I took a walking tour a few times, and most places in town were shuttered. The city really got very, very quiet. So it's one thing to think about, the pain or the struggles that you're going through. But after, I think, about 10 days, started making calls because it was dawning on us that getting supplies and staying open may not be that easy. And for years and years and years, we've had a relationship with a gentleman. Do you know what a carter is? Have you ever heard that term?
Never had.
I think it's an East Coast term. He sells this produce, but he does it by having independent trucks. He goes down to the markets at 4 and 5 o'clock in the morning, and he literally will buy straight from the farms or straight from the farmers. We do work with national suppliers because produce is only part of what we serve. But he's really, I'd say for almost 20 years, he's really been a big secret for some of the fresh stuff that we serve, and probably more importantly, keeping the national suppliers honest, because everybody has to bid against each other. So about 10 days into this, I gave him a call, said, hey, how you doing? And found out that we're the only customer that he had left. We're the only ones that stayed open. He'd already turned in all but one truck, and he was about a week or two from just closing altogether. So it dawned on us that it was more than just us that needed a hand. So it started out as an effort to help him stay in business and to help our employees who were furloughed or too afraid to work, or there wasn't enough work for everybody that was in our employ. So it started out just basically in-house, where we were distributing a little PDF that we would update every week because prices do change, to just try and feed people that were stuck at home. And one thing led to another. People started posting pictures of these custom farmers market boxes that we were creating for them on Facebook and other social media. They started asking us if they could share it. And it was kind of like a snowball that just kept rolling down a hill. And over the course of a few weeks, it dawned on me that we needed to go out a little further, that people were still too afraid to go to a grocery store. And the access that we get to incredible produce, just something that we felt we wanted to share. So that's when we created a more stable store and put it on our website eventually for the general public. And it's been a great thing for us. I mean, early on, the impulse really was to help out this carter, which still is the impulse today. We got the added benefit of creating a lot of energy back into our restaurant. We don't make a lot of money on the pantry really at all, but it brought so many people that were either customers or had never been customers through our building at a time when the 3 or 4 people that were manning the front really needed that positive jolt. They needed to see and feel that they were doing something that meant to people. So it's been a really great experience, and one that we're going to carry on as we relaunch ourselves back into dine-in in about 2 weeks.
About 2? Oh my God, well, that'll be something. Well, my father, that was his business. He was in the produce business.
He was.
My father was in the produce business, and my uncles are still, well, their kids now are in the produce business.
Wow.
We get-
And on distribution, do they grow? What's their angle?
No, my father was a delivery. His motto was, "If it grows, we have it." And,
Nice.
and my uncles, there was Northern Produce and Mushrooms Incorporated, and they're
Okay.
still around. They're still around, and they're out there, but it's their kids now.
Right. Right.
And my father that's where I first started to step into the restaurant business, because he had a few restaurant accounts. And so I found out about the kitchen and cooking in the kitchen,
Sure.
cooking in a coffee shop. And
Right.
he had American Airlines, which was a huge client of his, because and nothing but top grade stuff.
Sure.
I mean, it was just top grade. So Dad would deliver.
Yeah.
But I went with him a couple of times at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning,
Right.
and I said, no, that's.
You're more of a night guy, I think.
I am more of a night guy until I got here.
Sure.
And then, if you think Beverly Hills shuts down early, you should come here.
True.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I kind of took for granted until we did the pantry. The restaurant supply chain, the food, the quality of the food that we get is so far superior than most of what you can find in a grocery store, that not only through the pantry we're able to save people money, but the quality of the produce that they were finding in their baskets was really surprising. That was what was so disheartening in the early stages of this virus, that we as a society couldn't figure out how to reroute that chain. The news about fields being plowed down because of the lack of distribution, basically, is just it's almost criminal, considering the bounty that we have to share, really.
And then all that waste, where now they've made room for it, where they have people going to the farms and people donating their time in trucks and bringing that food in and distributing.
Yeah, I saw a news report the other night of a place in Georgia, because there's food deserts throughout Georgia, and how one of these markets was putting the idea in children's heads that they wanted to grow up and be farmers again. It's a really great renewal that is possible.
I want to show you, so I have to get up here because I have to show you something. I have to go over there and bring it to you. And this is...
Wow. Mr. G.
Can you see that?
I can.
This is one of my earliest photos at Hugo's.
What's in the background?
The background is, well, actually, it's up near the front on the window side.
Right.
So whatever is behind us could be the door of the tea room.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
You remember Leonard Pariser?
I do. Yes.
Leonard took this.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Kings Road's changed a lot. It certainly isn't the same without you, sir. The pantry taught us that we were able to use it to actually highlight products in a different way. We've always sold that Almond Energy pancake mix online, and it would move a few units every so often. But once we listed it on the pantry, boy, I mean, the amount of pancake mix we're selling kind of rivals the amount of pancakes we used to sell in store.
Isn't that wrong?
But it might be part of where, I mean, who's to say what dining's going to look like 6 months from now? But I think that there is some sort of, I feel like there's still going to be some energy around meal kits and finding different ways of creating the product that people will be able to enjoy, be it in their home or in your own dining room.
Right. How's the gluten loaves of bread going? Those are,
we've been making the cinnamon swirl French toast for a while. Yes, it's a big favorite of mine too.
Yeah.
But selling the whole loaf through the pantry has gone really well.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's a bit pricey because the loaf costs quite a bit to make, but you actually get something like some like 4 or 5 servings out of it. It's really pretty astounding. You can tell yourself you're doing something healthy, even though it doesn't taste like it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So who's left from the original crew?
Oh boy!
Besides Nabor.
Well, Nabor's still here. In fact, in the West Hollywood store, there's still, like, Juan Reyes is still with us. Pinky is with us, though. During this shutdown, we haven't really had drink makers because there's no drinking, you know. But they're coming back. So a lot of there's still a handful of the people that have been with us for 30, 35 years. In fact, we're 40. We just turned 40 this month, which is a slippery birthday because really Terry bought the butcher shop, I think in 75, 76, and we pegged that by June 1980, he'd installed the windows in the building, the deli cases had started falling away, and the tables had basically swamped the deli case. So we picked June 1980 as the moment, the tipping point, when the butcher shop really became more of a restaurant. So before the shutdown, and I'm still gonna chase her down, I had breakfast with Jasmine at the Studio City store. Jasmine's, I think she started in the 2 years after we became a restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah. So hopefully sometime soon after we reopen, we're going to have Jasmine back to host guests as they return. That was part of our 40th celebration, to surprise people on the weekends, because we're still getting people walking in asking for Jasmine. We're still getting phone calls from people wanting to know when Jasmine's working. They knew her as a kid and they want to introduce their kids to her. So hopefully it'll work out this month.
And she's agreed to do that?
Yes. Well, she did before COVID, so hopefully we'll find a safe way to bring her back and share that love, because the dining world's going to be a little bit different certainly when we reopen.
Well, yes, because you got to have tables further apart. Are you in the process of refurbishing the inside?
Oh, absolutely. When this whole thing started, the writing has been on the wall for the industry for a while. COVID is certainly a inflection point, but things have been changing for a few years now, whether you wanted it to or not. There's external changes that have made it a little bit more difficult to be a restaurant, one of which is Uber. Let's face it, when all of a sudden people thought they could get rich driving their own cars, they didn't want to be a waiter. So it made recruiting a little bit challenging there for a while. But then with the couriers showing up, that also added a bit of a complication. They started with us long before we knew who they were and long before we registered. We were getting calls from this Postmates company. But by last year, I statistically identified that 1 in 4 diners were still coming to Hugo's, but they were coming in digitally. It just upends the model a bit when you don't have those tables for the waiters, and 1/4 of your product is going out the door now, reaching some other door 45 minutes later if you're lucky. So it just sort of changes, it changes all of that for us. So when we got closed, I felt like it was an opportunity to try and deal with some of what we already knew we needed to address. That 1 in 4 diner that we no longer see, but we still serve, requires that we have space for all of the bags waiting for the couriers that are coming at night. In our waiting room before we closed, half the people were just couriers, just waiting for bags. So now both of our waiting areas have been expanded dramatically because of COVID, but we've also installed shelving and courier space so that the DoorDash driver and the Postmates driver can go to one side while the people that are there for the experience can travel to the other. We also took time to clean up a little bit because we've been in our buildings for a very long time. And there's only so much you can do while you're open. It's difficult to do certain repairs when you can't really repair Disneyland while the ride's running, But the public health department released some guidelines somewhere right around the time that they had said that LA County could reopen. that are quite extensive, that describe an awful lot of adaptation that restaurants are asked to take to provide that safe space for dine-in again. Curbside service is probably with us for the foreseeable future. A restaurant's going to have to figure out how to take their product outside because not every diner's coming back soon. There's people that are nervous, they have good reason to be nervous, or they're just concerned. And while the prior health code made everything about what happens behind the line safe, still to this day, it's what's happening out front or what could be happening in a dining space that adds that extra layer of concern. So we do have a revised floor plan that would separate tables generally by 6 feet. It depends on which way you're facing, ironically, because some tables can be up to 4.5 feet apart if everybody's facing in a different direction, because it really is about where your breath goes, right? And you're also not allowed to serve more than 60% of your capacity. So like in our West Hollywood store, if you remember, the building is enormous with these huge ceilings. So we're actually able, even with the 6-foot rule, to create a fair amount, more seats than we're able to sit. But that's a great situation for us because the other side of dine-in again is a really elaborate sanitation process. I mean, tables always got clean between dining, but we're talking sanitation now. We are talking very careful, laborious cleansing. No presets, no commonly used condiments. Everything has to be brought once you're sat, used by you, and then taken away, sanitized, and changed. Menus are single use or digital. There's a lot, and our waiters are actually meant to be wearing plastic screens. They have to have the cloth mask. You know, anybody that crosses the social barrier in a serving situation, especially with tables that don't have cloth masks on because they're eating, are meant to have these plastic shields now. There's a lot of little adaptation that's going to be coming. It might look a little space age, but hopefully it'll still be enjoyable.
What do you think, when I left 5 years ago, there were approximately close to or shortly over 300 restaurants in West Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think's going to happen now? I mean, I'm going to be, because so many of them were mom and pop, that I don't foresee a lot of those reopen.
I don't either, unfortunately. Some of it's going to come down to whether or not they were able to receive the PPP funding, because it still will come down to PPP funding would not have been possible in all likelihood if you were less than 2 years old, if you had just opened, because you wouldn't have a track record. It would also be dependent on your payroll and give you a certain amount of time. With certain funding, you might have been able to hang on a bit longer. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of places will probably not be returning. I mean, truthfully, right now, it's difficult to get people to return to work. Unemployment with that extra bonus is encouraging a lot of people to stay home, unfortunately. And there are still some people that are concerned. They either take care of their parents, they have a partner who's compromised. There's a variety of reasons still why the labor market is not quite entirely back the way it was. And we have yet to see what customer demand is going to be like. There are a lot of people out every single day walking in our door asking, are you ready for dine-in? Are you ready for dine-in? And we did see massive throngs when we ran some specials on Cinco de Mayo. But I know that there's still a lot of people out there that are in a wait and see mode, They're just ordering Postmates. They're just starting to bring takeout food in again. So we'll see. I think it is kind of unfortunate for the industry. I think the industry is going to see a lot of places that are not going to be able to return.
Well, now, how many people at a time are going to be able to sit? Can you sit 20 people at a given time?
Well, the capacity for us, let's just say that's about 60 people. And I've got, I think, about 80 seats. So that will give me 20 seats that I get to clean while I'm waiting for 2 people to leave before I can bring 2 more people in. That's how it's going to come down with that 60% rule. It's 60% of capacity. And the other thing that we're learning, we're going to find out when we open how this goes, because you have to go with a ruler and create a floor plan. And based on the ruler and the way the rooms worked out, we've got a lot of 4 tops, very few 2 tops, lots of 4s. But if you come in with Jennifer, you and Jennifer want a meal, I'm going to likely sit you at a 4 top. So while I've got all these seats, it's going to kind of come down to how many table spots have I filled and how many bodies is that. But you should feel like the place is kind of like a light Wednesday afternoon, even when it's a busy Saturday morning, because we just won't be able to bring in those throngs of people. We also, public health recommends strongly, you don't really have a waiting room anymore. You use electronic means to have people wait in cars or other safe areas, and you just text them when their table's ready. So there may not be people crowded out front. They're also strongly recommending that you reopen with reservations only so you can control the flow. So we'll see. We've always been a place that did yes to walk-in, so that part feels a little bit, what happens to the people that just wanted to stop by on a Saturday morning? I guess we're about to find out.
Wow. But now tell me, what happens to the Studio City store? Are you doing any refurbishing there?
Yes. In fact, if you remember the Studio City store, you'd walk in the front door and there'd be a waiting area on the right. Now that is all courier shelves. That room entirely is built out for couriers and Postmates. The host desk that you remember seeing will now have the plastic barriers in front, and it will be a takeout counter dealing with Postmates and telephone orders, because before we closed, that was 25 to 30% of our business. Out there, it was closer to 30 because they got so much call-in. Right now, it's 100%. When we go back to dine-in, I don't see us going back to 30. I think it will still be extremely strong. Probably more than half of our business will still be happening that way. So in Studio City, behind that old host desk was a bank of terminals that I pulled off the wall and I put in the middle of the floor between 2 pillars. So now there's an island. So your servers are actually watching you walk in the door. And over to your left is a new host counter. Both stores have their existing host counter converted to a takeout counter and an expanded waiting area with a new dine-in host desk further out, hopefully to draw you safely into open space, waiting for your dine-in table, and then ushered into the dine-in spaces so that couriers and takeout activity literally happen at the front doors, in, out, in, out.
Right. What happened to Hugo's Tacos during this time?
Well, nothing. I mean, everything happened to everybody. Everybody's business was halved overnight.
But you didn't close.
No, we did not close. I did not close any of the stores. We stayed open through every iteration of every plan of every change. We have not closed. But we saw our business get cut more than half literally overnight. People were afraid to go out. The taco stands were kind of built for this moment. We have windows. You were safely sort of kept. But people were afraid of dine-in food. But we have found that over the last 2.5 months that people have relaxed. And the taco stands have actually, the Studio City store is doing what they would normally do. They're fairly busy. A lot more in courier, a little bit less with people, but still, everything was already wrapped to go. It was all in a quick service kind of scenario. I think the quick service formats have fared better because it's more naturally given to this climate, So we've been very lucky. Out in the Atwater, it's a little different. Both Atwater and West Hollywood, in my experience, were 2 little towns that seem to empty out. West Hollywood is empty. I mean, we were, like I mentioned earlier, a walkthrough, I'd say about a month ago, we were one of maybe 2 places that were open. A lot of people left town or just really stayed indoors. And that was true in Atwater as well. The Valley's been pretty busy, though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's well. I can't wait till to come back around.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been to West Hollywood. and there was always a new restaurant opening. There was always, and you had some different kinds of restaurants. You also had some that closed. I understand that, oh, for God's sakes, the one near Robertson on the north side of the street.
Café de Trois.
Thank you, Café de Trois. Yes.
No, they closed pre-virus. They actually closed, I think, according to the news story that I read, I think it was just the rising costs. Minimum wage is going to be $15 an hour in a minute and a half by July 1st. It seemed like some of what, there's been a lot of downward pressure on this industry. It's been harder and harder and harder to be a restaurant over the last 3 to 5 years. The costs and the things that you have to do to support this courier model, and it's great that the city has a sick leave law. They really need to put some controls in there because it's basically a slush fund on a Saturday morning if you're just tired and you don't feel like going to work, because there's no sort of like controls. It's made it a lot harder to be a restaurant for these last few years, and I think that's part of what took them out. But there was Bottega Louie is about to open in a very, very large space. It looks like they're probably going to still do it, but
Bottega Louie.
Bottega Louie, it's a big restaurant. It's probably one of the biggest restaurants in Southern California now, in downtown LA. And for a minute, the gentleman who created the Abbey was creating I can't recall his name at the moment, but he was creating a very large space on Santa Monica Boulevard by the Mother Lode until he got the Abbey back. So now Bottega Louie is creating a West Hollywood location in its space.
Oh, and that huge space that he had, big space with a dance studio.
Abe Cooley.
Cooley, yes.
Yeah, I think Joey's Cafe down the street just recently reopened this weekend. Hamburger Mary's is reopened. We haven't seen any sign of life out of Basics or Merrick's, but I imagine they will. I think Connie and Ted's is reopening. So slowly the city's kind of waking up again. I think some of these health guidelines, I think the city's going to crack down a little bit, because over the weekend there was a report that they sent inspectors out and found 50% of the places apparently didn't read the full 10 pages.
Yes. What about outdoor serving? No more?
Oh, no. In fact, they're encouraging you to do outdoor seating as much as you can, but you're still required to do the 6-foot space,
Space.
Yep. So I think our patio will seat 12 people now, because of the requirement to keep people separate. And in our case, too, because we're right on a sidewalk, I think you also have to have a nod to where the general public is. I mean, I may be 6 feet away, but I don't want to be against a rail where people coming down the street will be coming, because not everybody is behaving responsibly. We still, at our taco stands as well, we still find ourselves having to engage in a conversation about masks. And everybody's entitled to their own point of view, but I'm inviting you into my home. I'm telling you, wear your mask when you come into my home. And we've had people throw glasses of water, curse people out. There's still a little bit of public behavior that we're hoping will cooperate with us more in weeks.
Really? Well, then the lines, as you say, because of the virtual situation, there will be no more lines with people waiting.
They're discouraging that, definitely. They don't want to put people in any, close context as much as possible, even with the masks.
Well, where do folks drive up? Is it just on the other side of your patio where they drive up, and or they pull in the parking lot and come in?
They pull into the parking lot. And in fact, they've been unofficially marked, but they're being officially marked. We're putting 2 curbside service spaces in both of our stores. So you pull up, our phone number's right on the sign. You just call the desk. Now we also have mobile payment units so that we can take a machine out to your car with your product, and you can pay contactless either by tapping the machine, or we won't have to handle your credit card anymore. You can take care of absolutely everything from your driver window. And the same will be true in the dine-in. We will be bringing Clover Flex machines so that you keep your card with you and you're able to handle the payment entirely on the machine, sanitized between uses.
So you have no cashier anymore?
Well, the waiters will still be doing air quote waiter banking, but there's a lot less these days.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, but we'll have we used to have 1 to 2 hosts. Now we're going to be having 2 to 3 because of the level of activity up front is much more extreme, and the need to walk outside to do curbside service for both the pantry and regular diners. And our meal kits. We get a lot of people that are coming in for the 4-person family meals. So a lot of that gets handled kind of remotely and quickly.
Jennifer was quite taken by the ideal of calling it a meal kit.
Oh, yeah.
Very ingenious, very different. It's easy to say food to go.
Yeah. But this is really about being able to get off of work or anyway, pick up a kit, unpack it, and have a delicious homemade meal at home.
Yes,
So
yes.
one of the things that Edgar and I took advantage of was you were doing the green casseroles in the chafing dishes, like the disposable chafing dishes, and it wasn't, so you guys understand, meal kit is not just like, oh, it's single serve. The idea is you don't have to come to the restaurant multiple times. You can take what they create, which we all know is incredible, delicious, and, for the most part, healthy.
Generally, yes.
Generally, food, and take it home and either eat it, because they serve it to you still warm. So you can eat it right away, or you can eat part of it. Obviously, for a couple like us, we had our individual portions, and then we put the second portions aside and had them the next day. So Hugo's out of Studio City because that's where we're closest to. Although before the pandemic, he and his friends always brunched Sundays at the West Hollywood location. Yes.
Right.
So that's why I just want to say meal kits do make sense, because it wasn't like just regular takeout. The idea was we're going to take care of you for longer.
It says it feeds 4, but along with a couple of side choices, actually these meals do extend themselves even further. I've taken the orange chicken meal kit and gotten 3 or 4 days out of it with friends. So yeah, I think it's a nice way of sharing our food as well. And it all keeps and reheats very nicely. So thank.
So,
and actually, starting tomorrow, I believe, when the drink kits get updated, we're going to also go back to selling our dressings and sauces through the pantry. So when you order your produce and buy that wine, Mr. G, because we also added wine about five or 6 weeks ago, because we realized the people that were selling wine were in just as much trouble as the produce people, because nobody was drinking. Now you'll be able to add a beautiful bottle of our house-made Caesar or honey chipotle to your produce box.
But you had a dressing that I don't see that you're bottling anymore. And I used it. Well, it was the one. Apparently, it wasn't used a lot. But was it? It was a
sesame ginger.
Thank you.
Oh, it is
sesame ginger.
Okay, I guessed right.
Yes, and are you still bottling it?
You know, that one, it breaks my heart. During the menu change, we actually did remove the sesame chicken salad, which we've had for decades. It's one of my favorites. Unfortunately, not enough people thought it was their favorite. So it always kind of landed at the bottom, because in order to make space, you've seen our menu, and it's almost insane. We cut it down for when the virus happened, because our kitchen was staffed by 3 people a shift. When all this happened, I had to remove a lot of complicated food just to see if we could stay open. It will come back one way or the other. It's just right now we don't have it. We do have the sesame chili.
We have what?
We have the sesame chili dressing, and we've got a really great honey chipotle, ranch and Caesar and balsamic, which are standard but house-made, vegan, et cetera. Vegan Caesar, go figure.
The honey chipotle is crazy good.
That is really good.
Crazy good. Before we started, you said that there was a new pasta dish that if I liked the green casserole, this was going to be something very intriguing.
Absolutely. We took our very green casserole and we created a very green pasta. It's basically the vegetables from the casserole on top of a bed of new spinach linguine that's also house-made, also vegan, made fresh twice a week. And it is delicious. It's sort of like having the casserole without the veggie patty. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite dishes. We also introduced a salmon piccata, which is wonderful. And we brought organic chicken into the building. Now your orange chicken can also be made with organic Mary's chicken. It is. You can go either organic or a natural hormone-free chicken. Because sometimes, the organic meats have a slightly different texture, but for people that want to eat organic, it's there. And it's delicious. Either product is really clean and delish.
Well,
there's a lot of new items. Our sandwiches have easily doubled since we closed. The sandwich page is just enormous now.
Well, will your salmon piccata, I think of piccata, I think of it sliced.
Oh.
Is that what's going to happen to your salmon piccata?
It is sliced, yes, with capers and a lovely piccata sauce on top of a bed of our house-made linguine. It would not be the fusilli, it's the linguine. It's really good.
Jennifer, you and I are going to have to go out there, and with your favorite guy, of course, Jennifer is going to get married.
Hey,
thank you. Unfortunately, the actual wedding is one of the many victims of COVID-19. We were supposed to have all of our family gathered on Saturday. So we've pivoted a little bit, and we're going to do like a commitment ceremony, like a preview to the wedding over Zoom on Saturday, and everybody here is going to be able to see it on the closed circuit television station as well.
That's great. Congratulations.
Yeah,
That's really wonderful.
Thanks.
We'll have to get some food out to you, Mr. G and Jennifer. After talking about all these new things, A, I'm hungry, and B, I've got to get them on your plate, buddy.
No, I have. You won't have any fight on this end.
Very good.
I'm happy to transport if that's what it takes. I can pick it up in Studio City and bring it right out.
We'll need your vote. We'll definitely need your vote. We'll throw in some kung pao cauliflower for you to enjoy as well.
We get that all the time.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Oh,
so
good.
So
really
good.
And it's organic cauliflower, so you're doing good for your body too.
And that, like, Edgar and I have both been trying to do more vegetables and healthier and cleaner, and we've both managed to trim down a little bit.
That's great.
Yeah, and now, again, with COVID-19 postponing the wedding, we've got even more time.
Exactly.
But, we've been doing like buffaloed cauliflower and kung pao cauliflower, and
Sure.
It's still not great because I know it gets fried first and then dressed, but whatever.
There's that, but
Sure.
It is dressed in a gluten-free batter and a non-trans fat oil, and but at the end of the day, it is fried food.
And it's delicious.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Show me a fried pickle any day.
So, Phil, we've only got a couple more minutes just to give you an opportunity to wrap it up. I personally, Bill, I want to thank you for being on. I'm going to hop off so you guys can wrap it up together, but thank you, and I will absolutely see you soon at one of the locations.
Love that. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Bill, I just wanted to say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. And I know you were kind enough to take a little more time than the 30 minutes we were initially going to have. But I'm sure our viewers appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. J. Anything for you. You know that.
Well, you're a sweetheart. Well, I want to thank you 100 times, and I'm going to sign off with my usual sign off, which is till we eat again. Take care, Bill.
Thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you.